Hello everybody and welcome back to Soulveyor devlog number 3. This week I wanted to improve the immersion in Soulveyor, and in order to do so, I've created the depth system. So this new depth system that I added to my game covers everything from walls to water to interior walls, etc. Soulveyor was purely 2D in the past, but now that it's 3D on the backend side of things at least, my old wall sprites won't work anymore because those old wall sprites were just 2D. And so now if I'm casting a light all the way around each wall sprite, it's not going to properly cast a shadow, nor will it properly receive shadows or react to changes in lighting. And this becomes really apparent when you walk up close to the walls. You can clearly see that the shadows are not actually being cast properly and the walls are actually flat on the ground. And so this is a no-no. I need to make actual 3D walls. In order to do so, I need to create not tiles, but voxels. And so voxel tiles will allow me to store data such as how to light each pixel, how the shadow casts, how the player's shadow or any shadow bends on each object. And it's very important that these are actually voxels, that they are actually 3D tiles. Because if they're not 3D tiles, I'm gonna run into all sorts of sorting and layering issues if I just use a 2D sprite. It simply won't work in the world. And at the end of the day, these voxel tiles will be indistinguishable from any other 2D tile, but they work like proper 3D tiles. So sorting and layering and lighting gets taken care of all internally within these tiles. And it's really throat's a little dry. Oh my god. And a slice of cheese. I wanted to start off by making my main outdoor tile, which previously was a rock wall. Except here, I wanted to redesign it a little bit and make it look a little cleaner as well. And I wanted it to be completely auto-tileable. Because that's the thing, with all these tiles I previously designed, none of them auto-tiled properly. So I couldn't use them in any procedural generation, and it was a mess to work with in the editor. And I had to manually place them in the proper order. It was just a nightmare. So I want to make sure that these 3D tiles tile properly, just like the new grass tiles I made last week. So I imported these 2D sprites that I made into a 3D voxel modeling software that will allow me to take that design and create a wall out of it. And from there, I can fine tune it and chisel all the wall details and the top of it as well. Once I've finished the main tile, I just need to create all 16 variants for the auto tile. So I did so and then imported them all into Unity. I also made a water tile, which is basically just an inverted wall tile, literally in the ground, a hole in the ground. But it's very important to note that I am not drawing water onto these tiles because that's for later. I'm going to be generating the water dynamically during runtime. So I'll basically have a mesh that floats and apply a shader to that, which makes it look like water. I also created a super simple log wall tile that I can use for indoor buildings, for indoor areas. It was a little bit tricky to get these imported as I had to rotate them and scale them a bit properly. I did end up having to re-import them multiple times, but that wasn't a big deal once I was done. And something that's pretty important to note is that the software that I use to make these 3D tiles doesn't export the objects super efficiently. And another issue is that I'm occasionally getting what's called inverted normals. And that's when the object looks just fine, but when casting a light onto the object, for example, when you're looking at the shadow, it looks like there's random holes in it, which doesn't make sense. And this happens because the triangles of the mesh get flipped, which occasionally allows light to pass through it. This isn't that big of an issue. They work, all the walls work properly, but it's just something to be aware of that I'll correct later in the optimization stage. So after everything was all imported, I created the actual auto tiles out of these 3D tiles. And I did a little test run where I painted one of the main areas with these new tiles to see if they would work. And it came out beautifully. I just had to change a couple settings on the materials to make it match the 2D tiles. But other than that, it looks gorgeous. And I changed the color on this material. Let me go ahead and see how that looks again. So the lighting, so the shadows, perfect. Yep, creep off the wall like that. Shadows get angled there. Nice. Yep, yeah, the light is a little bit above my head right now, so it looks a little funky. The angle's a little funky, but just experimenting with this. Okay. I also managed to get some water working as well for the water tiles. So I have basically a water mesh that moves and animates throughout the water tiles, and it refracts light. It changes color to like a blue gradient. It looks shimmery, and anything that touches the corners of the water get like a foam effect, which is really cool. It's really cool that this is dynamic rather than a hand animated water sprite, because this will react to the world. And if you drop in an item, or if you just even jump into the water pool, for example, you'll get like a foam effect around you, which is a really cool little immersion effect. So this is perfect. All the walls work. I have all the tools that I need to create whatever depth that I'll ever need in the entire game. The only thing to tackle now is that currently in the game, I only ever had one layer of tiles, so that all of the main tiles, including walls and water, can currently only be 1 unit high. What I need to do is create as many layers as I need so I can stack up as many walls or as many water tiles down below as I could ever want. And realistically, water would only ever be like 1 or 2 tiles deep maybe. Let's see if I can get some fake white water. Yeah, so like this. Pretend like this is water. This is what it'll actually look like. Damn, that's cool. Pretend this is transparent, blue, there's foam on the edge, it waves, it shimmers, it reflects light, and it has blue like color depth, so the deeper the water, the like the bluer it gets down below. That's what the material that I'm going to apply to this is going to do, and it's going to bob like up and down like this. Kind of like, yeah, it's going to like wave and crash and splash, and it's just going to make it feel so much more alive. And this will actually lead us to next week's devlog, where I'll be working on the procedural generation of the world. So I'll need to take all these new wall tiles, including the grass tiles that I made from last week. I'll need to take all of this and upgrade my procedural gen code to work with these new tiles so that it can place all of these wall tiles properly on the boundaries of the map. And I can also have wall tile algorithms to either create like a plateau wall where it just goes straight up like a pillar, or I can create like a gradual staircase wall pattern effect for the border of the map. And same thing goes with water, as well as the grass and the dirt. And just like the walls, the same goes for the water, the grass, the dirt. Now that everything auto tiles properly, the procedural generation can even be more unique, and there's even more combinations, because I can have just even 1 block of water here, or 1 grass here, or 1 dirt patch over here, and it all just merges together into one big area. This is going to make the world feel exponentially more immersive, and I can't wait to show off the procedural generation update coming in next week's devlog. So stay tuned for that. Wish this Soulveyor on Steam if you haven't already. Join the Discord. I will be waiting for you specifically. And until next time, I will see you later. Enjoy the day. The horse says nay, and I will be on my way. Throat's a little dry.